Hello, my name is Elijah Monargo, and today I'm going to be talking about the Vietnam War. Started in 1955, went to about 1975, November 1st to about April 30th. Probably a pretty long war, the second longest war in United States history, in American history. I mean, it was a pretty long war, and there was probably a lot of different types of causes that would cause it. I mean, I don't really know a bunch of the causes. I mean, there are a few that people have talked about, but they don't really make a lot of sense. And I mean, I get like people were trying to like, oh, this is what happened. Like, oh, communism started the war. Oh, militarism started the war. Politics started the war. No, I'm not really thinking the same thing because I mean I was reading this thing off of worldhistoryblog.com, and it was talking about like the domino theory being the start of the war. Like, and the domino theory is like the belief that if Vietnam fell, that people from Asia, stuff like a lot of places from Asia would like come over, and they would like help out, try and do what they can, and like a lot of things. And I mean, the domino theory is a pretty big thing. I mean, it's like Asia falls. I mean, not Asia. Vietnam falls. Asia falls like a row of dominoes, which makes a lot of sense because I mean, during that time, a lot of people definitely got involved in the war, like North Vietnam, South Vietnam, United States. A bunch of places got into the war, got into the mix of everything. I mean, in the Vietnam War, they had multiple occasions of war crime, like kidnapping, intimidation, torture, stuff like that. And I mean, it was a pretty long war. I mean, around 1 million deaths in the South Vietnam Army. I mean, during that war, President Kennedy wanted to get the United States out of the war because I mean it was a pretty big war. I mean we were losing people constantly. It was long. It was drawn out. I mean a lot of trench warfare, a bunch of stuff like that. And I mean that it was like before the Vietnam War started, something about the domino theory was made by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and I mean that was during like the Cold War, stuff like that. So like when the Vietnam War started happening, he was kind of out of the picture. President Kennedy came in, took over, was in office for 5 years, somewhere around that time. I mean it was a about 20-year long war. About 17 U.S. advisors were pretty much dead by the end of the war. It was a pretty gruesome type of war. I mean, they had like a lot of things that happened during this, and I mean, in 1964, after the French was defeated, the Vietnam was divided into into like a communist, like like a communist. They kind of split. Vietnam split in between, from like North and South Vietnam, and they became their pretty much own type of places. I mean, communism happened a lot between North and South Vietnam. And a lot of people think, North and South Vietnam is what got the war started, because I mean, United States is like an alliance for the it's like an alliance for the United States. So like North Vietnam usually had like the alliance of like United States, some places in Europe, multiple like places from different parts of the world. They'd come in and like help. It's just like a domino theory, talking about the domino theory again. Like if South Vietnam were to fall, Asia would fall. So like say North Vietnam were to fall, America would come in and try and help out. They might fall. Europe might come in. They might fall. So a bunch of things would happen, and there would be a lot of different occasions of different types of things that would happen during this war. I mean, trench warfare was one of the biggest, like, main things in the Vietnam War. It was a pretty long war. I mean, a lot of things would happen, like, around the Gulf of Tonkin. That's mainly where the war was at, near there. It was mostly in South Vietnam and North Vietnam, places like that, because, I mean, they were pretty close to each other. And then, in about 1964, when North Vietnam and South Vietnam became, like, united, and they tried to fight off United States, because, I mean, we were a pretty big war during it was I mean we were a pretty big army during that time, so we had a lot of people, a lot of things coming towards it, and definitely a lot of people that would come and fight for that war. um I have a couple of sources talking about like causes of the Vietnam War. I have one on historycrunch.com by Elias Beck, and he was really, like, during that, he was really talking about, like, expenses of, like, United States, how much they would spend on the war. I mean, spent near 120 billion on this war. It was a major war in American history, United States history, stuff like that. I mean, no, it's not really a forgettable type of thing. It's pretty big war. And then, like, also in 1964, there were, like, reports of a U.S. ship attacked on the North Vietnam coast while trying to fight off, like, North Vietnam and South Vietnam. Yeah, North Vietnam, like, sent off, like, a missile or something, hit most likely hit a U.S. ship, and definitely caused a bigger conflict. Definitely made a lot of people mad. A lot of things happened after that, so it was pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, when the war started, majority of men who fought in the Vietnam War weren't even drafted. They just volunteered, because, I mean, it was pretty big. I mean, they needed a lot of people. Like, a lot of people were dead during that time. It was murdering left and right. A lot of things that happened. I mean, just a lot of a bunch of things that would happen during this time, and it was pretty horrible. I mean, it was definitely one of, like, the worst wars fought for U.S. I mean, it was huge. It was definitely big. But the bad thing about, like, the war, during the war, President Kennedy wanted to get the United States out of war, but that's when the North Vietnam thing happened with the United States ship and stuff like that. So right when that happened, President Kennedy, like, wanted to change his mind. It's like, oh no, we're staying in this war. We're finishing this out. We're gonna get it done and over with. I mean, nobody really won the Vietnam War, because, I mean, it just ended up in a bunch of fighting. I mean, they had to. It was a lot of things that would happen. I mean, when the Vietnam divided north and became, like, a communist place, China and the USSR communists were pretty much, like, backed up by the United States. So also, like, the United States during this war, I mean, the USSR and the and China army would definitely come in, help out, try and do what they can. I mean, it was pretty long. I mean, not a lot of people had multiple causes for this war. I mean, it was it was like a war of, like, not like peace, I want to say. It was like a trying to, like, maybe take over, take land, do something like that. But, I mean, probably, not thinking that it would be like that, but hoping it wouldn't be. I'm thinking, like, probably the main causes of these types of wars are, like, an attacks, like, coming in and just totally turning that land into your own land, fighting off as much as you can, doing things like that. It was pretty bad. But yeah, it was, but like, and the bad thing about this war is like right before it in 1954, um, the French were defeated by the Vietnam, and that's when the Vietnam gained a lot more power after that, and they pretty much became one place united. And then during the right before the Vietnam War happened, is North Vietnam attacked on the into South Vietnam, and then the United States got involved. Everything, like, a lot of people got involved during that time. I don't really know all of it, but after about 15, no, maybe 10 years of fighting, that's when North Vietnam and South Vietnam became united and tried to fight off the United States at the same time. Didn't really work out for them that well. Definitely came back and hit them right in the behind. Kind of sucked, but the North Vietnam Army was like, they believed that they would get conquered by American soldiers, which was probably a number one thing that might have happened. A lot of conquering was trying to happen during that time. The United States was trying to take over, maybe. But when they both went out to war, they just didn't really know what to do. They didn't really have a lot of things to work off of, not a lot of resources, because, I mean, they just got out of a war. So it was kind of a bad thing. I mean, right when they got out of the war with France, they got straight into a war with North Vietnam, then the United States came in, and it became just a bigger war in general. It just grew and grew, and then finally, like, it got smaller and smaller near, like, 1973 about-ish, and near 1974 is when the war was starting to conclude, but not fully concluded yet. There were still people fighting, and all of that. Trench warfare was still happening. A bunch of stuff was happening during that time. But 1975, war ended, and a lot of things happened. I mean, a lot of things happened. I mean, United States obviously stayed the same, didn't really change anything. Got a bigger war. I mean, not a bigger war, a bigger army in general. Just pretty upsetting war. But a lot of people think that militarism caused this, communists caused it, politics, economic structures. People think that all that type of stuff would cause this war. But, I mean, the domino theory was definitely one of the biggest things during this war, because, I mean, it was in the Cold War, and it carried out until the Vietnam War about. And once the Vietnam War, like, ended, the domino theory kind of just, like, drifted off. I mean, not really, probably still there, but it's not really a thing that people talk about nowadays. It was a pretty gruesome type of war. But thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye.